Let me.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Jordyn with me, who has been in Magic Mind for it's been almost a year now. And I'm gonna have her introduce herself. She is absolutely such an icon. Jordyn is so self-led. She takes massive action and the shifts in her business and her identity, like scaling her income and scaling her identity, the transformation in her CEO identity has been astronomical. So I'm really excited to dive into this episode and just have you share your wisdom and magic with the audience. So welcome to the Heart Artistry Podcast.
Aw, thank you so much for the warm welcome, Tiffany. I'm so honored to be on the podcast. And I remember listening to the podcast last year before I joined your world and just being really enamored and really like captivated by all of like the cool boss business babes who are in there. So it's again an honor to be on the podcast. My name is Jordyn. I joined your world in the summer of 2024, and now we're coming to October 2025. I am a business astrologer. I've actually been practicing astrology for over a decade. But before I went full time in my business as an astrologer, I was doing business consulting. I was a business analyst. I actually worked on really cool projects, like even led by Indigenous women. And my role was really like pitch writing multi-million dollar projects. So the pivot has been really magical for me, just kind of naturally using my natural born gifts and my love for astrology and blending it with my skill set of really seeing my clients and helping them build out strong, powerful, sold out messaging and business strategy that helps them scale and quickly multiply their income. Many of my clients have done like really cool things, like have been featured by major celebrities or have made like their first 10K in 2 weeks after like leaving their jobs earlier, like when we first started working together. So just being in my purpose is something that I deeply celebrate, and I'm really appreciative for the role you've had in me like becoming this person. So I'm excited to be here and talk more.
Yay. Yes, I'm so glad. And you were on the podcast. I think was it earlier this year? I feel like everything's blending, but I know last time, like, there's been a massive leap from what you created in your business and also who you are as a person. So I'm excited to dive into that. I'd also love for you to share, like, your like deep diving into astrology because that started when you were younger, right? I feel like I remember you telling me like you would read charts for your friends in what was it, like high school?
Yeah. I mean, I was actually so if there's any astrologers listening in, I have a Pisces rising and a Pisces south node. So in the 12th house. So this means that my natural element, kind of like my past life karma, comes from just being a very naturally like spiritually heavy person. And so I remember um getting my first astrology book when I was 10 and being like, "Yep, this is it." I actually had an aunt who was a life coach when I was in high
Yes.
school. I would do like tarot card readings, and she would give me like Sephora gift cards in exchange. That's when I knew. I was like, "Oh, this is how I want to make money for the rest of my life." Of course, like I went to college and did like the normal thing at first, but it always
Mm,
stuck with me. So yeah, I've been reading charts for over a decade, like since I was a teenager, but it always was just something that was fun. It was a party trick, and I
yeah.
I never thought I never realized then that I would get this far.
Right. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, let's do our big threes really quick. What is yours again?
So I'm a Pisces rising, Virgo sun, Capricorn moon.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And then I'm also a Capricorn moon, but I'm a Scorpio sun and then a Cancer rising. And we're like just in the new moon of Scorpio, right?
We are, yeah, we're just entering Scorpio season. So I
Yes,
mean,
Scorpio season.
yeah, I remember reading so much of your copy and like you being a 5X Scorpio, and I was like, yeah, I need to work with this woman. And finding out we're both Capricorn moons, like I think the way that our brains work has been
Yes.
another level of like, oh, this woman just gets me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sometimes the 5X Scorpio's chaos in here. But I am very grateful for it. Yay. Okay, amazing. Well, tell me about your decision. So you were in BAA for a bit, and when we connected, when you joined BAA, you were just, I think, leaving your day job, right? And then by the time you jumped into Magic Mind, like tell me about your decision to join the mastermind. Like what were you thinking? What were your intentions? What really got you to like feel the pull so strong to be like, okay, I have to be in there. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was such a magical story. And I think we talked a little bit about how I got into BAA in the other episode, but I just remember
Hmm.
like I just felt the pull. And it was wild. Like I would listen to your lives and I was at work and I was like, I just know I need to go. And I had made like $66 from my readings at that point in that point of the year. But I was
Oh
like,
yeah. You were mainly doing readings.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I had only done like a few paid. I hadn't so in the time in BA I started like really just getting into like the four-figure month range, which was like
Hmm.
really cool. Like that was magical at first. But I remember getting the pull for Magic Mind. And of course I had been acquainted with it just being in your world and hearing about um your Magic Mind client wins, like seeing your Magic Mind uh like clients and being like, oh my God, that's so cool, right? But not for me
Yeah.
right now, right? I almost remember this feeling of like you riffing and dropping it in on us that like you were bringing in more clients for Magic Mind, and I was like, I don't want to hear it. I was like, I was like, ah, right? It hurt my heart because I was like, I know I know the time will come. I know the time will come, but I was just like, it was that Scorpio magnetism. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Stop it right
yeah.
there.
But and actually, you know what? Wait, okay, now that I think about it, it might have been around, I think this was actually around Scorpio season this was around Scorpio season in 2024. And
Hmm.
I could just kind of tell energetically, like I was doing all the right things in my business. I was hitting all the points, but in terms of my identity, in terms of that next level of I can just do whatever the F I want, right? Like that kind of level of leadership in business, I had a blockage and I knew that it was kind of like relating to the way that I was taking my leadership through investments. And so I remember like chatting with you and just like I was having a very much like will they won't they moment. I was actually on a trip in Hilo at the time. So I live in Honolulu, Hawaii. But I was visiting like the Big Island or the island of Hawaii, and I would like just go into crystal shops while I was on vacation and be like, will this tell me if I should go? Will this tell me? And there
Oh
was,
my gosh.
yeah, I don't know if you remember that. And there was just this time where I kept getting this one card, Kairos. This is my favorite card. And you showed me the book, 10x is easier than 2x, that introduced me to this concept that I kept
Hmm.
getting on the trip. And I was like, but even without like those like little symbols or signs which I like to look out for, but ultimately it comes to myself. Like I
Yeah.
remember filling out the application and I was literally in this I was in a home overlooking like a waterfall, and I was
I
like
remember you sent me a picture. Yeah, I remember that.
it was so magical, and I was like, oh my God, I just as I was doing the application I was like, I just know that this is going to be the thing. Like I could just feel kind of like my identity shift. And as soon as I got accepted, I was still on the trip. I was just like, payment sent, like let's fucking go. I just had that energy of like it was the biggest investment I had ever made in my business.
Hmm.
But I just had that shift where it's like, it's for me. And I can recount like all the magic that followed after that, but I just vividly remember that turning point in my business too. It was really special.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of the first time that I invested in my first mastermind, and it was insane. It was like application, if you were accepted, 24 hours, make the payment in full. And I was shaking. I was like vomity. I was like, oh my goodness, this is gonna change everything. And I think when we can go into mentorship deciding who we're going to be no matter what, that is what creates insane results in our business because we're essentially saying like this is what I'm deciding and I'm going to become the person who backs it up and turns this into reality. Like nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to get what I came for. It is the most powerful way to invest in yourself in all areas, but especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. So yeah, that's so beautiful. I also have screenshots from the wins in Slack. So in December, you shared with me that you're planning for both Q1 and Q2 for the next year, right? And you said, and a 10x for me would be signing 4 clients, having a 10K month, and then creating 2 to 3K in recurring revenue. And then in
Oh,
January, literally on January 22nd, you posted, I just celebrated a 10K weekend over the weekend. And I remember we were like screaming. I was like, what? Like, you crushed your Q1 and Q2 goals literally within the first couple weeks into Q1. And then around that time, you also closed like 14K in 3 weeks around that same time. And then, like, got the ROI back on Magic Mind literally within like the first month or two. Tell me about this leap and who you had to become to create this.
yeah. And I really do think that like I made that decision back in it was like November or October to join. And I was like,
Mhm.
and at that point it was again that energy. Like even when I joined BAA and I had really nothing to show for it, like I went through a car accident and I left my job. Like it all happened at once. And I still feel like that energy of like, and I think it's very scorpionic, which is why I love being in your containers, which is like, you're gonna have to kill me or I will get what I want, or like you're gonna have like I will drag my way there. Right?
Do or die, baby.
Right? It is. It's like
Yeah.
I refuse. Like this is the only way forward. And so that is, I think, something I've really been able to like it's kind of I feel it in myself, but it's something that I've really been able to like ground into being in your containers. And so when I joined Magic Mind, I was like, yes, this is it. And I don't even remember writing my goals in December. I think that's so cute. I can't even like that's so adorable that I was like, oh, you want like 2 to 3 MRR, 2 to 3K MRR, like how adorable. So that was like nice for me to hear now. But yeah, the funnier thing too is like in December, my long-term clients had like I was taking a break, so I had like 0 clients. Like I was just we're taking a pause, and so we were working on the
Yeah.
resigns, and so I had no reason to like really maybe I had one. I had no real reason to like stand on that, but I was like, yeah, it's gonna happen. And I remember too during like the first few weeks of being in Magic Mind, a lot of my offer suite kind of like fell apart. I was like, I just had this identity leap where it's like I can do so much more for everyone and for myself by stepping into that next level identity. So there was like a reshuffling energy there. And I remember just like really being guided to teach and to lead in a specific way that I had never done before during that time. And I was
Yeah.
like, I was really just immersed in my craft. I was like, I I was deep in the service element. I was like, I believe in my transformation and I want to like infuse that in those who feel called for it. Like I had this kind of like like this complete belief in it. And leading up to I think, January and like around January, I had really been like nurturing this group. I'd, been giving them my heart just because that's what I love to do. But I had also been able to kind of step into this edge where because I had seen myself do hard things again and again and again in my business, I was not afraid to call my clients higher to elevate them to a higher level because I knew that's what builds winners. Like that's what builds the transformation we're seeking. And I had because I had that evidence through, joining a higher level mastermind that I felt like I wasn't ready for. Um, and like putting myself in like the big girl rooms, I knew like I could hold that level of leadership. And so
Yeah.
at that point, like I had been really like just kind of like a combination of like trusting my intuition, trusting my transformation, leaning in on that edge, and then all of a sudden I was just getting interest. Like people were just like, yeah, I want to be in like application. And it all came to a halt like in one weekend. I remember too, is like I was, I think, traveling at the time and I was like getting these like, hey, I'm in, like I'm ready, I've chosen while I was like visiting family in Japan. And I was like, this is amazing. Like I'm living the dream. I don't know how this is happening. And then shortly after it just started like compounding and compounding. And that was like it started as a 10K weekend, which is like crazy. And then it led to like
Yeah.
around 13 to 14. And then it like I had another client say yes. And then it became like 20K in sales in 1 month between January to February. So yeah, I quickly I ROI'd in a matter of weeks, which is like I I think it was just like I don't know. I
Yeah. It's insane. And I feel like you are so good at just like deciding and declaring, right? And I think that is one of the most powerful things that we can do as entrepreneurs. Like, A, when we invest in ourselves and the transformation is always in the transaction, right? So when we enter a space like a mastermind where you are holding yourself to a higher caliber, you're holding yourself to a higher level, right? And then on top of that, you're like, okay, I'm deciding this is who I'm going to be. I'm going to find a way to become that no matter what. And one of the things that I see in you, Jordyn, and I see this in myself as well, and successful entrepreneurs, anyone who's built something massive, you are okay with walking through the discomfort, right? Because most people, ordinary people, any average person who's not a business owner, who's not doing this work, who's not, pouring into themselves and doing this inner work consistently, it's like the moment there's discomfort, people typically lean away, right? And what we decide to do as leaders is we feel the discomfort and we walk through it. We expand our capacity to hold it. We don't let it mean anything about us. We let it teach us, right? It's like everything that we're taught as leaders, we are learning to be riskier, play a bigger game, do the delusional thing, think things that are outside of the realm of reality, right? And that's one of the things that I see you doing is like when you're asking for mentorship, when you're being vulnerable, when there's a challenge, it's like it's always the mindset of like I'm going to find a way, like this might suck right now, but I'm also going to show up. I'm going to let this stretch me into the biggest version of myself. Where do you think that identity and mentality came from? And how did that expand for you throughout your business?
Yeah. So I think that's actually something that I really admired about your brand, especially for me. Like I'm a Virgo, and so I tend to be more like, and I come from being like a business analyst. So I came from
Yeah,
like, being really technical. And what I really loved about your world and your writing was that you would compare being like the up levels in entrepreneurship with the experiences of being an eldest daughter, a single mom, being a woman of color. And I had not really connected those two things before, right? Because when I think of entrepreneur, I would think like, oh, okay, these people with degrees, typically like white men, and that is like the definition of excellence or grit. So when
yeah,
I was kind of leaning into your world, I was seeing myself in what you share and realizing, wait, I am gritty in ways that are not, that are not necessarily looked at in a like a non in a non-traditional sense. And so I
right.
think that through that rewiring, I was able to see my own just experiences being like a woman of color, an eldest daughter, or like, just being an activist or things like that as evidence of my own inability to be effed with, or like, my own grittiness. And I
Yeah,
think that it has been, I have my own experience, like life experiences that I have gone through that, I wouldn't have connected with to entrepreneurship. But overall, I really do feel like, and I think we've kind of riffed back and forth on this, is that I really do feel like, my ability, like I used to be in kickboxing, and so I used to like always go home with bruises, and I was doing like business consulting in the day, like during the day, and I was working with like engineers, and I was like constantly like being the youngest in the room. I was constantly like being the only person who looked like me. I was constantly like on the growth edge. And so for stress management, I would be like, you know what, I'm just gonna like get some bruises on my body and like like fight some grown men and like that's gonna be how I find peace. But I think through that process, it's so I think this is maybe a little Capricorn moonish, but I it kind of felt like I I feel like I'm able to wear those kind of like I don't want to say bruises, but like wear like the growth pain as a badge of honor. And I feel like that's something that's really encouraged in your world. And I think something that like you have echoed and taught us as women of color.
Yeah, yeah. And it is a very different experience growing your business as an entrepreneur, as a woman of color in that experience, like versus what we see in the broad corporatism world, right? Where it's like, a lot of us as women of color, we're taught to go into corporate and then shrink ourselves or put ourselves in a box in order to be okay and be liked and be hired and make money, right? But it's like in entrepreneurship, we're having to go against that in a lot of ways. A lot of us, especially with more traditional Asian backgrounds, I know specifically for me, it was like there's such an importance on education, and not just education, but like that being my life and bringing home good grades, right? And doing the thing that was safe and that was going to get me at the top of my class and create that level of excellence. And in entrepreneurship, it's very different in a lot of ways. You're having to take more risks. You have to bet on yourself. There isn't a profitable linear track that you can follow on a spreadsheet. It's like you have to, and that's one of the things that we really focus on in Magic Mind and just in my world in general, is building that relationship with your intuition. It's not always going to be what is the safest, most profitable, predictable thing that I can do next. Is it's also, well, my higher self is saying this and it's completely illogical and it makes no sense, but I'm getting such a pull to do it. And so I'm going to honor that and I'm going to listen, right? So there's a lot that we're shedding to be able to run our businesses as the truest version of ourselves, which is something that I see as one of the core values of Magic Mind, is running your business as your truest self and deconditioning from a lot of what we're taught from different systems, and particularly oppressive systems that haven't been designed for women of color, for us to be able to thrive in our businesses in our own way, right? And I think that's one of the most beautiful things I love about entrepreneurship and being able to do this work with other entrepreneurs and leaders is we get to create literally a world of our own, and then we get to create a life where we have this level of time freedom and freedom to do what we want and spend it with our loved ones in a way that is unique to us and our passions. And that's also what you've built as well.
Yeah, I love that, and it's been this beautiful experience where, I mean, like the money wins are awesome. I'm always gonna celebrate that, but it's wild to even compare the person I am a year ago before I joined this journey, and I started it with you in BAA to like the person I am now, and it's funny because like
Yeah.
you really grow superpowers, and like for me, it's fun as an astrologer. I'm like, oh right, there's my Leo Mars. I didn't realize like how tough that was, or I didn't know how she wanted to be showed up. But it's like this process has been something, or this journey has been me coming home to myself and like almost like exposing my own superpowers. And I know we talk about that a lot in Magic Mind. So
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you say that too, because when we are becoming the biggest version of ourselves, money comes as a byproduct, right? I remember a time in my business where I was chasing money wins and focusing on the money specifically and wondering why it wasn't showing up, or I would work so hard and then money would show up in like these small incremental ways. And when it really clicked for me, when I understood wealth energetics, it was I get to become this version of me that is in full service to my clients. Everything I'm doing is focusing on getting them better results, more sustainable results in a joyful way, right? Like redefining my processes, my thought leadership, and then seeing money come through as a byproduct of who I'm being, the identity work that I'm doing, the inner game that I'm focusing on. And if there's one thing that I want every entrepreneur to know, especially when you're entering containers, you're growing and scaling your business, right? This is going to be true all throughout your business, is that money is always going to be a byproduct. It responds to us and who we're being, right? And I think that's one of the most powerful things that we get to see and create is like everything is is available to be created. Like there isn't anything that is outside of us that is somehow out of our control. And that's one of the things that I see in you and your belief and your mindset and your identity is like you see yourself as the creator. I think that's one of your biggest, like it leads to some of your massive results is because, and this is what I teach in the mastermind, is like there's nothing that is outside of us that we can't create as a result. Any external result, like nothing's gonna hold us back. So if you see yourself as a creator and you see that, like, oh, I can create that, I'm gonna set out to create that, I'm gonna find a way to do it. And if I don't do it the first 10 times, it's only going to teach me valuable lessons and gold nuggets for me to be able to do it the 11th time or the 20th time, like whatever, right? Like that is a really powerful, it is such a powerful way of navigating business. How do you feel like that's shown up for you in your own words, like seeing money come in as a byproduct of who you're being and how your identity is growing and evolving? Like, how does it come in and support you in illogical ways?
Yeah, I love, love, love that question. And I think it's a really powerful journey to from what we were talking about of like grad or like leaving the energy of like the corporate world where it's like, oh, you have to earn it and you have to really be palatable to get this result, or there are these specific formats that you must do to get X result. And I feel like, through being in your world, I've really broken free and unlearned that and realized like, oh, okay, the most efficient business scaling model is a quantum leap, and it makes zero sense, right? It is actually like stressful to go through. I feel like I've gone through it many, many times in this last like, oh my God, I can't believe it's been a year. It's only been like it's
I
it's
know.
been yeah, it's crazy for me to think about. But um I would say that there was a level of bravery that I needed to go through the wormhole, in like the examples that I went through. And there's always going to be this process, I think, of like going through the wormhole and like everything falling apart and freaking out, and then calling your coach or, slacking your coach and realizing like, oh, okay, it's going to be fine. And then you get everything you want. And then you realize like, I mean, I had after, that massive quantum leap in the winter of this year, I had like the most fun summer I've ever had in my life. Like I went on the retreat and that was incredible. Like we were
Yeah.
wined and dined. I met my soul sisters. I went on like a few solo trips, and it was the wildest thing. I would like go out like I would be in like the jacuzzi and get a DM from a client where it's like, I'm so ready to join, payment sent. And then I would go out dancing, and then I would come back home, and I would go out dancing again, and I would get another DM, which is like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be in like payment sent. And so it's wild that like once you go through these growth wormholes and you create something that is based on who you are. And this is something like I help with my clients, and one of the reasons I love astrology, it's like you just get to be more you, and you get to have more fun, and you get to do things you would do in a world where money didn't exist. And ironically, doing the things that you do in a world where money wouldn't exist attracts more money in ways that are so unexpected. So I mean, that has been one of like the most delicious parts, I think, of this journey.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much because I see it the same way. And I see money as this unlimited amount of this unlimited resource, really, this unlimited energy that comes in to support us that we are stewards of, essentially, right? Like it comes to us and then through us, but then we also invest it back and we save it, but then we also spend it and invest it into certain things. And so I think one of the things too that attributes to your success and the way that you think is the way that you've invested in mentorship and the way that you invest not just financially, but the way that you invest in seeing yourself as your greatest asset, right? And I think that the entrepreneurs that end up creating like the most epic movements and revolutions compared to the ones that like are always trying to get there are it's the way that you see investing, right? You don't see it as spending. You don't see mentorship as spending. You don't see the inner work and the inner game as like something that we pull on when we need it or something isn't going right. It's we call it in when, like, we call it in all the time to fuel the work that we're doing, right? And you are also someone who believes in long term mentorship, right? I love for you to tell me more about your beliefs in mentorship. It's very similar to me. And again, I think it makes such a massive difference the way that we see ourselves, the way that we see mentorship, the way that we invest in ourselves. Like, you have clients that sign within like a day of you posting, right, on your stories. Like, they move fast. You also moved really fast. Like, by the time you decided to join Magic Mind, application was in, payment was sent. Like, you're also someone who does that. You reflect that into your world, right? And this is something I wish every single entrepreneur knew, is like the way that you show up in your business, the way that you show up to mentorship, the way that you buy, those habits get reflected back to you, right? You signed up for you joined alumni for your second year in Magic Mind, literally within weeks of being in the mastermind. Like, I don't even know if you had jumped on like your first live call or maybe like the first or second live call and you were like, yeah, I'm going to lock in till like pretty much 2027. So I'd love to hear more about your beliefs in investing in yourself.
Yeah. I want to talk, I will share more about that, but that's so funny. I think it was actually after I had seen a little bit of momentum, but I remember like telegramming you like, "Oh, I'd love to hear details." And you were like describing things to me and I was like, "I don't even need to listen to the rest of it." I was like, "Okay, just send me the link." I was like, "Yeah, duh." And I think that it's both intuitive, it's relational, but I also have, I think, kind of a unique perspective that I'll share that has really helped me with mentorship, that does come from like more of like a technical business background where when I was a business analyst, I was seeing, multi-million dollar projects come to life. I was on them. I was sometimes project managing them. I was sometimes like writing the pitches for them, and I saw I saw six-figure investments in consulting. And at first I was like, what? I was baffled. But when I actually saw the numbers and I saw the way that, oh, okay, like this six figures is building millions to come for like decades.
Yeah,
And the sooner that people really like when you're working, I think in the multi-million dollar, like the eight-figure range, people make decisions like that and they just
right.
torpedo it. And I see you doing that and you've really encouraged me to do that. And so when I witnessed that, I started to see it's like, oh, my indecision is like costing me, you could even hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions, like if we're really thinking
Mm,
about it from a technical standpoint. And I also really learned, I think there's kind of like an art that I've had to learn, like being a client, where it's like, oh, how do I just take the most ownership possible through this entire process? Like, take ownership of everything, right? In-source anything that you can, not from this place of like, why isn't she answering me at 11 p.m.? But more so from this place of like, oh, what is it that I really need? How do I get create like so much intimacy with my business that I know like the questions or the blocks or um what I need from my coach at that moment. And that kind of technical aspect was hardwired into my brain, where I do see investments as like, oh, if I'm being the bottleneck on something that I really need, I can't stand that. Like it drives me crazy. Like once I kind of know, I'm like, just like get it done right now. Because to me, it's like,
yeah.
oh, that's growth that I'm losing out on by not doing that. And I think the other component too is um there's more here. I think the like when I look at my investments, I'm like, she's a baller. Like that I like that feeling. It's a good feeling, and I think that that's something,
Yeah.
right? Like you saw it, right? The way that you move pre Magic Mind and after Magic Mind. I'm like, oh, right. Like you could kind of just you see it. I enjoy that. And I also have seen, I think when it comes to like long-term mentorship, it's like I mean, I think it's very much like it's such a no-brainer, because I think even in corporate where I saw like, oh my god, these people have been working together for decades. And I feel like the same way where it's like, oh, this person really knows me. Almost like I could probably send a few emojis and you would be like, oh yeah, I know what's wrong. Like,
Respond with a 10-minute voice note.
right? I'm like butterfly, sparkle, sad face. You're like, okay, like this is right. So over time, it's like, yeah, the results compound in your like everything in business compounds. I think the same thing
Yeah,
is true for
exactly.
mentorship. So I think for me, like finding a home, I think is like okay, like thank God that's done, right? Like think like and also I think that it is beautiful from a relational standpoint where it's like I just really feel like that trust is something that cannot be cannot be replaced. Like we've been able to build
Yeah,
like such a strong and deep relationship over time. Like you've
I
seen
know.
you've seen me through everything. So that is like just so precious to me. And I like just really honoring that. I always think about not only like ownership of my business, but like, I guess ownership of the relationship or how am I showing up? Because like I just like right like I'm just so grateful for that. It's been a really beautiful experience to be mentored like this. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say, and it's a lot, but it's just been such an incredible journey.
Yeah, thank you. I received that and I echo that so much. I feel that both as a client that gets mentored and also as a mentor yourself myself and then you see that as well because you see that in your clients and it makes you a better coach, right? It's like you understand the weight of mentorship and the power of mentorship and that gets reflected because everything's a mirror, everything in business and in life is a mirror, right? And so I find that this is reflected in the way that I'm able to hold space for my clients, the way that I'm able to invest in myself and in my brain. And like you said, mentorship compounds. That's why long-term mentorship is such a flex, but not just a flex, it's such a powerful strategy because when you are with someone and your coach has seen you through like all of the launches, understands your patterns and your triggers and the wounds that get activated. And then we're able to navigate it, close any gaps. Like it's like there's this whole database of Jordyn and Jordyn's business and what's come up that like every coaching, it just gets better and better and better. And the conversations we have get better and better and better because I'm able to share more nuanced perspectives, right? Like our relationship has built, there's been more like a deeper intimacy in the way that we get to in the way that I get to mentor, in the way you get to receive. And that's really powerful. That's how I've seen it as well. That's why I've joined masterminds rounds and rounds again in the alumni, in the VIP groups. Like I've invested in that for myself because I know that when a coach is able to hold me over a long period of time and see me through so many different ups and downs, so many ebbs and flows, through so much evaluation and understanding, oh, well, remember when this happened, it was because of this. Next time, this is how, like, one of the biggest things that we focus on is evaluations inside the mastermind, knowing why no like understanding why something's happening in your business or why something isn't happening in your business and then being able to solve those problems. It's essentially like a lot of what we're doing as entrepreneurs is like solving problems and figuring out which problems need to be solved, which are symptoms and which are actually problems, and how to honor our guidance and also get the support that we need from our mentor, right? And it's such a powerful way of running our business is knowing that like no matter what, I have someone on speed dial, right? Metaphorically, like, and I can call and I can show up on Slack and I can show up on the calls and get the support I need. It's like an insurance policy on your business. And it's such a valuable way of showing up in entrepreneurship, especially in a mastermind when you're held by people who get it and who really see you. And we need that.
Oh my God, we do for like the spirit and the soul. And I think, like, yes, all of that. And I think it has also just been really nurturing to my nervous system. And when we're making those fast decisions all the time, like those crazy big leaps, having that, like, I think about all the water in your chart and I'm like, which is why I always
Mhm.
jokingly call you like, oh my God, mother, right? Like, I'm like, I feel like I can make big moves because I'm like, "Oh, I have my touchstone. I have my touchstone, right?" Like, I feel like I have my I feel I have that level of safety, like, in my body, and I feel,
Yeah.
like, that as much as I'm, like, on the technical side, it's, like, that part of, like, me feeling safe, um, in your spaces, I think has compounded in so many ways that I can't, like, I don't even have data on, but I just like know in my soul and my spirit. So I'm really appreciative of that too.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, and I love that. And I see that. Like I've felt and experienced that. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I shifted Magic Mind from it used to be 6 month cohorts into a year-long mastermind. Because imagine being like for an entire year, you don't have to worry about like, am I going to join another program? Am I going to resign? It's like the decisions are made, right? And you're in a space where your nervous system can settle. You're held. Like no matter what happens in your business, you have someone that's like going to be in it with you. Like one of my beliefs is I take full responsibility for everything that happens in my containers and in my business, right? I know that it can often feel easier to want to offload that into like, well, that was out of my control and that's an external circumstance. But I actually believe that the best entrepreneurs are able to like not take it on emotionally necessarily, not in a negative sense, but through power, right? Like anything that happens in my container, any result that happens in my business, I create it because I'm the creator, I'm the leader. So I know how to create it. I know how to create more of it. I also know where to pinpoint what I don't want to continue creating and what that looks like, right? Because as a leader, you get to decide, you get to declare, and that's such a powerful way of showing up as the CEO in CEO identity. And yeah, it attributes to a level of illogical success that I think goes beyond what we can imagine. So, yeah, I love this. This is so beautiful. Is there anything else that you want to share about your massive 10x leaps, what you've created in your business? Like going into 2026, tell us a little bit more about what you're planning and plotting for your business and anything else that you feel like would be supportive for the audience to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been wormhole after wormhole of like again embracing like, oh my God, I'm the powerful creator. And I think you're right. It is like a stage where it's like, oh my God, I'm creating this. So then like, oh my God, like I'm creating this, right? So it 1000% on everything you said. And for me, it's like um I it's been an incredible journey for me where I am in the process of launching my mastermind, and it's been so beautiful.
Yeah.
I just had another applicant. Every person who was working with me in the beginning of the year applied and signed up for the second round, which is like, ugh, but it's like again, it's like that compounding mentorship is
Amazing.
beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I did my numbers. Like I did do like a literal 10x of my sales from 2024 to 2025, and I'm really excited because I'm seeing that continue to progress, and I'm calling in like a six-figure year. Like the numbers look very promising, and so I'm like
Yes.
excited. Um, but really it's I think for me, I am really seeing the beauty of having my own mastermind and now seeing the beauty of having all of those beautiful long-term relationships that I've had for that are like again nearing a year.
Hmm.
And witnessing that for myself from the coaching perspective and just like, my heart just flutters when I think about my clients. And so it is like this beautiful experience that I'm seeing, and it's really cool as an astrologer for me when I having these long-term clients where like in 2024 I might have said like, oh, I think you're gonna pop off in this realm, and then like seeing it come to fruition in 2025, like, oh my God, why did I
Yeah.
do that? But in terms of next steps, like it really is just for me pouring into my intimate circle, um and continuing to have fun in my business. Like those are like the main priorities that I have set out and I'm really excited for.
Yes. Yay. Oh my gosh. I love it. I can't wait to do, well, maybe this time next year we'll be like talking about the insanity that's happened in 2026. So, yeah, it's so beautiful and it's such a joy to mentor you and just to continue seeing the evolutions of your business, not just on the outside, but seeing like I see the inner work that Jordyn puts on and goes through and meeting her shadows and alchemizing experience after experience in her business. And I think that's one of the joys of mentorship that you've seen as well in your clients is like you see what they're creating in terms of external results, but there's so much inner transformation that goes into this journey as well. So just I want to celebrate you in that because you're like honestly, I feel like sometimes the people in our lives don't really see it. Like your mentor will see it because they get it and they're going through it at least in a similar way in entrepreneurship. But like friends, family, like they just don't they don't have context. They don't really they don't understand all of what it takes in the back end. And so that's another thing that's really beautiful is like being able to have someone that just sees like everything that you've been doing, like all, not just like the ups and downs, but like everything in between, everything you're alchemizing, everything you're continuing to transcend, all of the emotions that we're constantly processing and regulating, right, for our nervous systems. And it's really it's beautiful, powerful, challenging work that is so worth it in building the lives and designing the lives from scratch that we get to live. So it's really amazing.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's been such a privilege, and I feel like your Cancer rising always makes me feel like really at home in that process. And like that Scorpio sun of yours is like really putting, like helping us uh transmute and transform constantly in this in the realm of entrepreneurship. And so it is true, like, you know, your friends and your family members will be like, oh my god, like did you change overnight? But it will be like, you know, your family, who's your soul family, your business soul family, that's like, oh, I know exactly how that happened. So right, like I
Yeah.
received that Slack notification like yesterday. So it really is such a privilege to be in this space, and I'm just so grateful of all of like the beauty that has come of it. So I'm so deeply appreciative of you, and our relationship is so special to me.
Yeah, same. It's so special to me too. I love you so much. Okay, tell us about where we can find you, connect with you, work with you, and learn more about you. Where do you hang out? And I'll have everything linked below, by the way, in the show notes.
Hey, well, if you're listening to this, thank you. I would love to connect with you on Instagram. You can give me a follow at cosmic.creatrix. And like, I would love to hear any of your thoughts, takeaways, maybe your big three in my DMs. Like, I love
Yes.
making new connections. And so go ahead and feel free to say hi. I might be running a program then, but I'd also be so happy to connect with you. And I'm looking forward to meeting you.
Yay. Beautiful. Yeah, everything will be linked in the show notes. Go and follow Jordyn. She is iconic, and you will feel that as soon as you tap into her world and her content. And yeah, share with us like what came through throughout this episode. What did this activate for you? And also, I'm going to share a little bit about Magic Mind because we're going to be opening the enrollment for the 2026 class. So, Magic Mind is my high level mastermind. It is my inner circle. It's a year long and designed for visionary entrepreneurs, CEOs, to take the world that you've already been building and creating the most explosive breakthrough year that highlights your unique artistry, making it world renowned, and creating a world where aligned clients are obsessed with buying from you over and over and over. This is where you not only scale your revenue, your income, but also your identity and the impact that you're making. And Magic Mind is a very choose your own adventure mastermind. Like, we're not all going through a one size fits all protocol or process. We're going to identify the specific focuses for you. You're working on what is tailored specifically for your business and your results. So, the application is in the show notes. You can fill that out. We have the option of jumping on a call and talking about jumping into the mastermind. I'm always here to have a deeper conversation about this space. It's such a sacred and exclusive and beautiful table. I am very particular about who is accepted into this space. However, when you feel the pull and you feel it intuitively, and I feel it as well, it's explosion and fireworks. So all of that information is in there in the show notes. You can read more about Magic Mind. You can reach out to me if you have any questions, send me a DM. And other than that, Jordyn, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your magic and your wisdom. And I will catch you all in the next episode. Bye.